coming up on Wrestling Life.
The most iconic woman in women's wrestling, like, you think women's wrestling, like, that's the top you can get, just iconic on a personal level. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I owe Chyna so much. Like, she has changed my life, and I've been my true self because of her, so I can't thank her enough. That's why I've got this the other day, like, from the bottom of my heart. Like, I there's no words to describe what that woman's done for me, and I will do what I do as long as I can for people to remember her, because she is an absolute true icon, a legend, and we all have problems, we all have various things we deal with, but it doesn't take away from the fact she was a beautiful person inside and out.
This is Wrestling Life with Ben Veal, the show that celebrates wrestling's past, present, and future with real talk from real talent.
Welcome to a very special Gone Too Soon episode of Wrestling Life, celebrating the legacies of wrestling superstars who are dearly missed. Today we turn our attention to the ninth wonder of the world, Joanie Laurer, the late great Chyna. A true pioneer and one of a kind in professional wrestling, Chyna redefined what it meant to be a female competitor in the world of sports entertainment. As the only female to ever hold the Men's Intercontinental Championship in WWE and a founding member of D-Generation X, Chyna's impact in wrestling and popular culture was huge. And while Joanie Laurer tragically passed away in 2016 at the age of just 46, Chyna will never be forgotten. Joining me on this episode today is, as always, my co-host with the most, the People's Broker Ajaz, and I'm delighted to welcome the incredible Sarah Page, aka Chyna Syndrome. Ash, Sarah, welcome to the show. How are you both?
I'm good, how are you?
Very, very well, thank you. Me and Ash were saying, before we started recording, we had planned to do a Chyna episode from a long time ago, as soon as we talked about this series of Gone Too Soon legends, but I'm absolutely delighted that you could join us, because who better to talk about the legacy of Chyna than your good self?
No, I appreciate you asking me.
So look, I mean, let's start at the beginning. For you, Sarah, you have got this huge following on social media, and it's quite surreal to be speaking to you, because of course you look so similar to Chyna. Where did this all begin for you? I guess firstly, when did you first discover Chyna and become a fan of hers?
So I was actually quite late to wrestling. So my ex-husband was into wrestling, so I sat there watching it with him. So it was around 2015 is when I got into wrestling. And everyone kept saying, "Oh, you should cosplay Chyna." I'm like, what? I haven't got a clue. And my best friend was like, "You need to cosplay Chyna." At the time, I was very skinny, like 7.5, 8 stone, timid little thing.
Really?
And I looked up Chyna and I was like, oh my God, this woman, like, who is this woman? She's like insane. And I was like, I'm not big enough to cosplay, like, this jacked, muscular Amazonian goddess. I was like, I'm not big enough to. And they're like, but you look like her. I was like, but I'm not big enough to look like that. And it got to, oh God, when did I first do that? Was it 2000 and what year are we now? 2022.
Good question.
I've got ADHD. I don't remember time. 2022. I'd started working out a bit. I was like, I may just be able to pull this off. So yeah, 2022, I went to a Comic-Con in Manchester. I had the sort of the iconic leather get-up made. And someone took a video at this Comic-Con, like just a 7-second video of me doing this. I had the belt. And it went viral. I was like, what is going on? From that point, I just carried on working out, started looking at different outfits, all that kind of thing. And it's like progressed. We're now like 2025. I had to think then. Yeah. and I'm still doing it, and it's kind of spurred me on to bodybuild because she was so different. She kind of it's like it's okay to be different, and yeah, I wanted to, like, from the minute I saw her, like I wanted muscles like that. I wanted to look like that. For me, that was like Amazonian goddess. That's how a woman should look, like strong and insane.
So I first saw Sarah, I think it was a couple of years ago at the Manchester for the Love of Wrestling, and I saw you there, and I saw you in the distance, and I think Miss Kitty was with you as well. So I was like, what? Like, there was a lot of people, cosplaying and stuff like that, but I was like, oh my God, that's Chyna. I was like, that's unreal. I'm like, the resemblance, it was uncanny. So no, it was, yeah, definitely amazing. But would you say, Sarah, like, your bodybuilding now and how, I follow you, and, congratulations on all your wins and, amazing you're doing in that. Would you say you'd give credit to pretty much Chyna for getting you in the sport of bodybuilding and doing that? Or were you kind of always interested in it before?
I've always, because I grew up watching Arnold Schwarzenegger films.
Sure.
So
yeah.
I've always,
who hasn't?
Yeah, I know, right? What a legend. And I've always liked bodybuilding. I never had like the courage to stand up and go, yeah, I want to be a bodybuilder. And I've always found it interesting. And I think the turning point for me was working out and trying to look like Chyna. And I was like, do you know what? I actually could do this. So I walked into a gym and I went, I want to be a competitive bodybuilder. Can you help me? So I would say, yeah, it's down to Chyna that I've become a bodybuilder, because she gave me the courage to be my true self and follow my dream. Like, if you read a book, like, there's a lot of similarities between mine and her life, and reading that is just, it's given me the courage to be my true self and not be afraid of like what people think. So yeah, I would credit her a lot for me wanting to bodybuild.
And what is so amazing is, like, you became a wrestling fan, you said in 2015, you kind of discovered it, which is years after post Chyna had left the sport. But it's kind of that impact of her legacy kind of impacting what 15, 20 years later to get into the sport. And I just find it fascinating, amazing, and how many other people she must have impacted. And obviously her career, I know we're going to come to it, and Ben, we're going to go through the, the timeline and stuff. But when I first saw her, if you asked me about Chyna, I said, what a game changer she was. Because what did we know of women in wrestling before we saw Chyna? Like, they were just treated as valets, I think, most of the time, and just like these objects. Even through her career in the Attitude Era, the women were doing, I don't know, defending the women's title in a putting in
so the whole
match and stuff
thing,
like that.
Women are there for a bit.
She was different. Like, she was fighting men. So no, I mean, yeah. So she was an absolute game changer. I think trailblazer, absolutely.
I think from what I've been doing for so long, like the lookalike stuff, the amount of people she's influenced by being Chyna, like the amount of messages I get, like, are insane. Like, how much people loved her, how much she's influenced. It's absolutely insane. And like, obviously she felt at the end of her life she wasn't loved. If she could see what I see and the messages, it's mind-blowing, really. Like, it's insane. Like, the outpouring of love for her and how many people adored her.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing about what you're doing through, what you're doing now, because her legacy really is living on in a very special way through you. Similar to Ash, I saw you at a distance for the Love of Wrestling. I was there with Marc Mero last year, kind of working on his book, and I was kind of rushing around a million and one places, but I saw you in the distance. I was just like, holy crap.
Yeah, I couldn't move at that last Comic Con. I literally had to get took outside because I started overheating.
Yeah,
I was like, please get me outside. Like, it kind of goes a bit mad for Love of Wrestling because everyone's like, bah, 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 and I love it. It's great. But I had to get outside because I was too hot and pass out.
It was very hot in there, yeah. I remember.
but it was crazy because, like, obviously since that time, you know, I've seen you kind of everywhere, all over social media. I've seen lots of people within the industry who are, you know, blown away at meeting you or talking about you. Like, you know, Chris Van Vliet has talked a lot about you. I know Jacques Rougeau was on my show the other week, and it's like, have you come across Sarah Page? It's incredible. Like,
I met him last year, and he was so lovely. Proper lovely bloke,
lovely guy. But it's like people, you know, through you, people are getting a chance to have that connection with Chyna. I think she is someone who is so deeply missed, and it's so tragic when someone passes away and through difficult circumstances they maybe don't realize quite how loved and respected they are. And obviously she never got her long overdue WWE Hall of Fame moment that should have happened while she was still alive, and obviously there was a lot of politics and things involved in that. But if anyone has ever been deserving of a WWE Hall of Fame induction, I know she ended up getting it as part of the DX, but it's not really the same. Chyna in and of herself has to go into the Hall of Fame at some point for everything.
Her estate, because I work quite closely with them, they are pushing. They keep pushing to try and get her a solo induction. Yeah. And hopefully soon that will happen, because Triple H has made a few comments that makes us think like, oh, maybe it might happen soon. So fingers crossed, because although she can't be there for it, it would be nice for her to get that recognition, because there's never going to be anyone like her.
I remember when she got inducted with DX, and Shawn Michaels was the one. Seemed like he was trying to find his words to, you know, describe her and her role in DX, and the crowd was just going mad, and they were just like, she deserves it. Like, they put her up on the Titantron, and the crowd is just going crazy for her, and they're just waiting for Shawn Michaels to just say her name. And then he finally gives this long speech, and then he goes, with a further ado, without Chyna. So everyone just goes crazy. So even then I was like, why are you finding it so hard just to give her credit and mention her? Because she was a pivotal part of DX and the original
I could tell
DX.
you why, but we won't go into the politics of that.
Let's not.
Well, you know, we can do a little bit as we go. I think it's quite key, because the thing about you know, Chyna and DX was like, in any kind of funny movie, like buddy movie, you have your comic relief, and then you have your straight man. And DX without Chyna's kind of stoic, strong presence would have been a very, very different thing. Like, if you just had Shawn Michaels and Triple H being jokers all the time, it wouldn't have anywhere near the ground as having this incredibly intimidating, booming presence. I know that the Chyna character softened up as the years went on, but certainly 1997 Chyna was just such an intimidating, larger than life character. I remember seeing her. I was 13 years old, going to the One Night Only show at the Birmingham NEC, and I had really good seats, and I have one of those little disposable cameras where all the photos of wrestling would always come out rubbish, but I have this incredible photo of Chyna walking down the aisle about that far away from me, just staring.
You're gonna have to show me this.
Oh, well, yeah, I've got to dig it out. I'll find it and put it on the screen as well. Yeah, like, just so terrifying. I was like, I remember I was tiny anyway, and all the wrestlers are huge, but I was like, look at the size of her. But if anyone was
tall as well, she's like 5'10", 5'11", like, you've got the height with it as well.
How tall are you?
I'm like the action figure version. I'm 5'5". I'm little.
But Ben, do you remember when she debuted? And I remember her debut like if it was yesterday, when she just appears from the crowd and she just strangles Marlena. And I'll never forget Jim Ross going, because she's like so big. We've never seen a woman like that in wrestling before. We've never seen anything like that. So Jim Ross is like, what? Is that a woman? I'll never forget him saying that. And then she's like, they didn't give her a name for, I think, 3-4 weeks she was appearing. and they didn't have a name for her. Oh, it's that woman again. And they were just like so intimidated. She was body slamming guys like instantly. She was like beating up Goldust and Bart Gunn and all these people. And talking about like rewinding back, like her impact, I feel like, and you were talking about like her role in DX as being that person. I think when she debuted and aligned herself with Triple H, it transformed Triple H's career completely, because what was Triple H doing prior? He was, what I remember, he was like in hog matches or something with God when he was like thrown with pigs and all these things. But as soon as she was in the sights, my God, look at his career. It just like took off. WrestleMania previously, he was jobbing out to Ultimate Warrior. And then this WrestleMania, he was a winner going on to win the Royal Rumble. And I think it was all because of Chyna and her presence and her impact.
So look, let's just go back to the beginning, because, you know, Joanie did have, a challenge in life. It's been well documented both at the start of her life and at the end. She's born in 1969 in Rochester, New York. It's been pretty well documented, quite a lot of family instability growing up. But that aside, she does excel academically, studies Spanish literature at the University of Tampa, graduated in 1992, actually has a brief stint in the Peace Corps, which is crazy, and works a number of jobs before she moves into bodybuilding and wrestling. When she gets into wrestling, she's trained under Walter Killer Kowalski. I mean, you can't really get much better than that. She said in a lot of interviews, you see these early interview footage of Chyna saying, "I've been trained by Walter Kowalski. He's the best in the world." Obviously, there she meets Paul Levesque, Triple H, also being trained by Killer Kowalski. Obviously, her size, her look, it feels like a given she's going to go into wrestling. But I think what's interesting, as Ash rightly says, this was at a time when women's wrestling was very, very different. So we'd seen some kind of tentative forays into legitimating women's wrestling. So we'd had Alundra Blaze, Bull Nakano. We've seen a bit of a presentation of this athletic presentation within WWF. But then the women's championship gets thrown into a trash can in Nitro, and women's wrestling is vanished again. So by the time Chyna debuts in February 1997, there is no women's wrestling scene for her to step into. Interesting to think potentially how her career may have changed if she'd arrived a few years later than there was women's wrestling. But at the time, she's very much a woman in a man's world. And I think her introduction and how Jim Ross talks about her in that early first few weeks is quite indicative of a lot of the struggles that she has, because there is these kind of, who is that? Is that a woman? Is that a man? And I think that was something that plagued Chyna and Joanie for a long part of her career, was kind of coming under, what made her so special, but also a lot of the difficulties I think she faced was because she didn't fit the typical mold of what it is to be a female. You'll
get that these days.
No, you wouldn't in these days. These days it would just be, wow, she's an incredible body.
No. I get it all the time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me more about that then.
Oh God, because you're a female with muscle. You know how it's not okay to insult somebody like about their weight, like it's not a good thing to do. Apparently it's acceptable when you've got muscle. Like I'll go shopping, like I'm buying chicken, okay, and people will literally, you look like a man. Like I've had it.
Really?
I've been followed around shops.
Well, people will say that to you.
Oh yeah, my favourite. I'm quite a smart little thing when people start. I had this very large woman, and she goes, "Oh, you look like a man." Like looked me up and down really horribly. She's with her husband. I thought, oh God, I'm in a cut, so I'm like, quick. And I looked at her husband. And I can see why you think that, because your fella's as big as me. She walked off. But yeah, like I try and be smart with it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll have people telling me, "Oh, you look like a man, you look disgusting," and all that. Like I'll have some lovely comments as well, but you still get it. Like I don't really like going out in public, because people look at me like really nastily, or they'll make comments, and I tend to walk that round, my head down, because then I can't see people. But it's a bit of a thing.
Yeah.
Sarah, I'll hire you as my bodyguard any day. So
I'll take you up on
I
that.
don't care what anybody says.
Well, we both think you look awesome. I mean, I look at what you've achieved and I just have nothing but admiration. I can't really get my head around that.
Dedication, discipline.
That is the world we live in, isn't it? Unfortunately.
Yeah, like people think it's
people down and lift
acceptable.
people up. Yeah.
It says more about them than it does about me. Like, I'm happy with how I look. I don't care, but it's not okay, no matter if you're skinny, overweight, muscular. It's not okay to go out in public and insult somebody.
No.
I'm not going to go up to someone and be like, you need to lose a few pounds, don't you? Because that would be really insulting.
Yeah.
But when you're a female with muscle, it seems to be acceptable for people to at you, which it was for Chyna as well. It just seems to be an acceptable thing still.
Well, she's under this, incredible public scrutiny, and I remember it well. There was a lot of talk at the time, and this was really before proper internet trolls. I can only imagine what it would have been like for a couple of years, a decade later. But there was lots of, is she a man? Is she a woman? Lots of stuff about that. And it was really, really unpleasant. I remember that just in the kind of dirt sheet community and the fanzine community in the mid 90s. And it is kind of interesting to think about how she was positioned within the company through commentary, because I feel like if she'd arrived now, I mean, we saw it to a degree with Beth Phoenix, like a decade later, like the Glamazon, and certainly you think now all a mainstream US wrestling organization would be to focus on your athletic ability and what you could do in the gym and what you could lift. Like it feels, but at the time she was so kind of other and presented as this kind of out of this world, which obviously helped with the career, because she was presented as this incredible attraction that kind of was otherworldly, the ninth wonder of the world. But you have to imagine that the mental health toll must have been pretty hard for her to deal with at times.
Yeah.
Title Run Toys Series 1. Dangerous Danny Davis. Wrath. Juventud Guerrera. Ernest the Cat Miller. And Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Coming to the ring soon.
Have you spoken to people? You said you kind of involved with the estate. Have you spoken to, are you close to people who kind of knew her well during her WWF years?
Yeah, so close family friends run her estate now, because Jan, my mother's not well at all. I also talked to Jerry, who was her boyfriend when she was in the bodybuilding, when she actually went into WWE. I'm quite good friends with him. I chat to him on Facebook. So I've chatted to quite a few people sort of about her.
Yeah. And is that the, did she find it hard kind of dealing with some of that stuff she dealt with? Do you know?
I didn't go too much into that, but I would say so, judging by, I've found it hard sometimes because how horrible people are online. I don't tend to read comments, so I can only imagine being on that level of playing field, what she was dealing with. And it does get to you at times, and it's very hard to go, no, that's their problem, not mine.
Yeah.
And it does play on your mental health, and it puts you really down at times.
Yeah. So
I can only imagine what she was dealing with, and she seemed to deal with a lot of it by herself.
Yeah.
And Ben, as you were saying, this was some kind of pre-internet, social media time when she was going through this. Could you imagine, if social media was there or something like that? But for her it's crazy, and hearing Sarah talk about it, it sounds crazy.
Oh, it's horrible to be everyone's like, oh, you're big on social media. Sometimes it's like a curse. I'll just shut it off. I'm like, I really don't care. I don't care about the following. I really don't care. It's cool because of I've got a platform to represent her, but at times, like, I've had people telling me I should kill myself. I'm like, you're nice. It's at that level, it's vile, and you have to be mentally strong to deal with it. So if she had that in her times, you can only imagine how mental, because we all know wrestling fans are either this way or that way, and they're quite... yeah, I could, no. It's bad enough dealing with mine.
Yeah. Oh man. No. Well, you know, I think, you know, you can only imagine what it was like, that kind of entry into the WWF, but within the world of WWF, like as Ash said, like the role that she plays, you know, it's hard to imagine what Triple H would have become without. She was the missing ingredient in that package. He was somewhat adrift as Hunter-Hearst Helmsley before she comes along. Chyna arrives by his side, and suddenly he's complete, and she is with him and synonymous with him all the way up to him becoming world champion. I remember kind of that feud he was obviously having with Goldust, and I remember, as you say, Marlena being thrown around like a ragdoll, which looked like it genuinely hurt a lot.
It's just iconic, though, isn't it?
It really is, like the ultimate debut, like, yeah, just brutal. And then, of course, he wins the King. You know, Triple H wins the King of the Ring a few months later. Now, obviously, he was tipped to be King of the Ring until the curtain call. 97 is the crowning year. Chyna by his side, but you know, when things really take off is obviously the formation of D-Generation X, which happens very organically, kind of going into the fall of 1997. It's not like this big unveiling of we're DX. It's like over a period of weeks, you see how this group is acting. I remember being at One Night Only, the very infamous Shawn Michaels British Bulldog match that Chyna and Triple H got involved with. I mean, the level of heat in that, I've never been in a wrestling arena with that much heat. I think that was after that they stopped selling glass bottles at wrestling events because people were literally throwing, you know, there's so much anger in that arena. It was like close to riot territories. I've never experienced. I guess it's the closest there's been to, like, you hear about these like late 70s, early 80s heat in like the Southern Territories in the US. It was proper anger, that was, and a real precursor to the Attitude Era. That was kind of where it really begun. But what I really remember was kind of early 98, like some of the stuff she was doing, like feuding with Sergeant Slaughter. Do you remember that, Ash? Like kind of getting into Sergeant Slaughter's face, and she looks bigger than him. Like, that's Sarge, you know.
Yeah, I remember all those things. I remember the formation of DX. I remember Chyna actually responsible for one of my most favorite moments on Raw, giving Michael Cole a wedgie, if you remember that one. And then, feuding with Sergeant Slaughter. I remember this match. I think it was Triple H versus Owen Hart, and she was chained to, like, handcuffed to Sergeant Slaughter, so she couldn't interfere. Yeah. And then, you know, she still interfered. There was this shark cage one when she makes her with, like, breaks out of it, and she's just hanging from there. I was watching. I'm like, oh my god, she's gonna like kill herself if she falls from there. Luckily, the cage like lowers and she kind of comes down okay. But yeah, I remember all those. It was an amazing, funny time for DX. I think that was like the best version of DX for me, with, like, you know, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Chyna, and then you had Rick Rude, and so that was a great time, I think, for DX. One of the best. And Chyna was this figure, just the anomaly, like, whoa, overpowering figure. So yeah, she made it look special. And
we don't see her wrestle. We don't really hear her talk. Obviously, Joanie had this really beautiful. She was very soft spoken when she spoke. Like, her voice was very different to how you'd imagine, and we don't really hear that from her. She doesn't really step into a ring for a long time. She's kept very much out of it as this, as you say, anomaly. When she does get involved, it's generally like massive low blows, which always looked pretty brutal.
Best in the business, I would say. It looks so
I think that's part of the intimidation, though. When people don't talk, they're like, oh.
Yeah.
I think that was the intimidation tactic.
And it is, and it's kind of, you say about the social media, like, you wonder, like, because there was so much mystique around Chyna, you actually wonder whether, if it was today's world where there is very little boundary between the character and the real person, and if she was on Instagram and TikTok and speaking to the world with her lovely soft voice, you do wonder whether that, because she had this enigma around her, didn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
But a match I always remember is the SummerSlam match. So that incredible ladder match, The Rock, Triple H, like that's one of my favourite ladder matches of all time. Remember, she's involved in that, helped Triple H win the title. Obviously, there was that big feud over the summer, the Nation of Domination versus DX.
Yeah.
I mean, 1998 was an incredible time to be a wrestling fan. And then throughout that, you've got kind of Chyna and Sexual Chocolate, Mark Henry. Having this kind of, quite a storyline. I mean, have you kind of, did you rediscover all of this, Sarah, when you?
Yeah, I went on a tangent.
So did you go on a deep dive of like all like Attitude Era watching and soak up what you could of Chyna?
Because the minute I like get something, because I've recently been diagnosed with ADHD. Now I know I'm weird. The minute I get something in my head, I have to go and research this, and I dive down the rabbit hole. Like, so I had a great time watching all of this stuff. Like, I literally have to deep dive and look at everything. I have to know everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm ADHD as well, so I get it completely. Like when you're focused on something, absolutely. When you focus on something, you just go all in, don't you? And it's all your mind can think about.
Yeah, which is why I'm so like with the bodybuilding as well, because that's my hyper focus, and I have to look at everything.
Well, it's working for you.
It's like a superpower, isn't it?
Absolutely. Talking about superpowers, so Royal Rumble 1999, Chyna becomes the first woman ever in history to enter the men's Royal Rumble. I think, and people will let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, I think there's been 3 women that have entered the Royal Rumble. I think it was Chyna. I think many years later, Beth Phoenix and Awesome Kong.
Awesome Kong, Karma, I think.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else have, but I remember.
Yes.
Maybe we have.
Oh, what's her name?
You can't say Santino dressed as a woman.
No. No. She gets RKO'd by Randy Orton. Her name has fallen out of my head now.
Okay, well, that's one for the comments. It'll come back to us. But yeah, I remember her, that was the 1999 Royal Rumble where Vince McMahon wins it. But Chyna comes in. I think from memory, I think she comes in right in. I think she might be number 30. She's very late in the day, but she eliminates Mark Henry. So obviously they've had that feud going. But just the fact that Chyna was in the Royal Rumble was such a big thing. Like, that just didn't happen. And again, just showed that she didn't fit a mold. She was her own unique person. We do see her turning on Triple H and joining Vince McMahon's corporation, but that's a very short-lived thing. This was in an era where like storylines were starting one week, ending the next, because it gets to WrestleMania 15 and she reunites with Triple H turns on Kane. So may as well not have happened. I think most people even forget there was a turn. But then, and later that night, I think it was, both of them turn on X-Pac. They join the corporation. That's the end of DX, or at least that's the end of the core version of DX, because there'll be various splinter versions going off into 2000. 1999, she competes in the King of the Ring as well. Yeah. So she's become the first woman. 1999 is an incredible year for her. We'll get on to a bit more of that in a second. But yeah, first woman to enter Royal Rumble, first woman to compete in the King of the Ring. And then, October 99, the first woman to become Intercontinental Champion for the WWF.
Yeah, it was an unreal year for her. I mean, what I remember, her beating Triple H. I think she pinned Triple H twice or something like that. I think once in a tag team match. It was her and Kane versus X-Pac and Triple H. I think it was a St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and she beats him. And then I think she beats him. I think it was a triple threat match where Stone Cold interferes, if I'm remembering correctly, or Mankind. I'm trying to think back now. Sarah will correct me because she's kind of lived her timeline better than me. But yeah, what an amazing year that was for Chyna. Like, just unreal. And becoming an Intercontinental Champion, like, crazy.
Yeah, so what are your memories, Sarah, from kind of this incredible year for her when you've gone back and you've deep dived into Chyna? Because this was the year where she breaks out from being a bodyguard and this kind of silent companion to being a genuine wrestling superstar in her own right.
It's just iconic, that match, isn't it? Like, the first woman to hold that title. Like, it's where she kind of breaks into her own. She's not got the whole degeneration next. She kind of breaks into her own, and she's Chyna. Like, that belt, I've actually got a replica of the belt with the exact plates on. Like, it's just iconic. Like, no one's really done what she has, have they?
No, and this was, of course, so it was a good housekeeping match. So it was kind of anything when it was all built around this Jeff Jarrett working his way through attacking various women in WWF. Yeah, like I remember I've had Lillian Garcia on the show. I remember she was one of the victims of Jeff Jarrett during this time. He was working his way through other women, and he was, it's a kind of storyline that would never happen now. But in the weeks leading up to it, it's all about kind of get back in the kitchen, know your place. Very, very chauvinistic role. This is a very controversial match because Jeff Jarrett doesn't, as wrestling legend goes, Jeff Jarrett didn't want to drop the belt. He didn't want to drop the belt to Chyna. He holds up Vince McMahon. I think it's to the tune of $150,000 to actually wrestle the match, or he walks.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's out of contract. Vince McMahon, I believe it's the day of the show of No Mercy, Vince McMahon has to pay him $150,000, say that he'll do the job before going to WCW. So there's a lot of controversy here. This was not a willing exchange, and I imagine this is probably how a lot of the boys probably felt at that time.
I think a lot of them didn't want to submit to a woman. I think the first one really that was willing to work with her was Mick Foley, Mankind. He's like, I don't care. Side note, what a lovely human being Mick Foley is. But yeah, he was the first one willing to work with her. I
bet he loved meeting you, didn't he? Did you meet him earlier this year?
He was an absolute sweetness. I was like, I need to meet Mick. So I had my photo with him the day before. And I was like, I just want to speak to him. So I stood in the queue with my friend. And then Mick spotted me in the queue at his table. He had the biggest smile on his face, and he came out from behind his desk. I was like, I just wanted to speak to you and say hi. And he's like, we need a photo. He's like, I can't get over how much we look like. And he's just an absolute sweetness. Proper lovely bloke. If anyone's got the chance to meet Mick, because he's not only a legend but absolute sweetheart.
Yeah, he's a beautiful, lovely human being, and I'm so happy he's in the health he's in, to be honest. It's remarkable.
Yeah, it's insane because this is the man that was throwing himself in barbed wire and thumbtacks and his
20 feet off the cage.
When he turned 60, I remember sending him a text saying happy 60th birthday, Mick. I don't know quite how you've done it, but you've got here.
He was in a car crash not long ago. God damn it, Mick Foley's he will survive nuclear war. Mick Foley, he's incredible. Indestructible.
If you survive hell in a cell, you can survive anything.
Now, I don't know the politics going into Survivor Series 1999, but I do vividly remember the Chris Jericho-Chyna match. So Chyna's Intercontinental Champion. Chris Jericho's come into the company with lots of fanfare, but very, very quickly, it feels like his star power has waned pretty much from that opening night. He has this match against Chyna at Survivor Series, which I'm sure everyone thought, obviously, she's dropping the title to him. She's won the title in this kind of gimmick weapons match, and obviously it's going to go to the new WCW sign-in. But she doesn't. She beats him. I loved that match. I remember being on the edge of there's certain matches where you're on the edge of your seat. I remember that one being it was such a great back and forth match. They both made each other look fantastic, and I don't know what their relationship was like, but certainly between, say, November and January, the two were synonymous with one another. They end up, I think it's the show afterwards where they become co-intercontinental champion.
Yeah.
Can't quite remember how that happened. I hated that. I had no issue with a woman being intercontinental champion, but the purist in me detested the idea of being co-singles champion. I can't even remember how that happened.
Yeah, I don't remember that either. Now that you mention it, but it rings a bell. Was it in a triple threat match or something? I can't remember it. Sarah, do you?
No, I think no.
It's a trivia.
I've watched a lot of Chris and Chyna, but I'm trying to think. You could be right. It was a triple threat.
I can't remember. I think like they maybe pinned each other, but whatever happened, by virtue of that, she becomes a 2-time Intercontinental Champion, which I think is questionable whether that makes you a 2-time champion. But the whole, that was 2000. I mean, I think the average time to hold the Intercontinental title in that period was about 10 days. So it didn't really mean anything. But I do remember their program vividly. The match they have at Royal Rumble, which also involves Hulk or Holly. I remember her. She becomes a 3-time Intercontinental Champion when she defeats Val Venus. But 2000, I think, for everyone, when you think of Chyna, there's only one other person you think of, and that is, of course, Eddie Guerrero, when she becomes Latino Heat and Mamacita.
I love that gimmick, like Chyna and Eddie. I love it.
Is there an Eddie Guerrero cosplay out there?
I've been looking, like applications are open. Like, if
I'm willing to give it a shot.
If I can find someone that looks like Eddie.
Well, you just need to meet Dirty Dom. To be honest, he's the closest thing these
just
days.
need to grow a mustache.
I keep finding people that look like wrestlers, like, but I haven't found an Eddie yet. Like, someone pointed out that my coach actually looks like X-Pac, and I was like, oh god, he actually does, and I can't unsee it. There's a guy in my gym that looks like John Cena. Like, I was like, I call him Cena because I can't remember his name. But I need someone that looks like Eddie.
Yeah. Oh, I just the dynamic between Eddie Guerrero and Chyna was just beautiful. Like that was wrestling storytelling at its absolute best. When people ask you why you're a wrestling fan and what it is you love about wrestling, just any of the skits that you could tell they seemed to have so much affection for one another. You could just tell there was a sparkle in both their eyes, and I think that was when we really see the genuine human side of Joanie comes out.
Yeah,
is in that. Like before that, she is still
that
this
more feminine softness coming out with that gimmick.
Yeah, and I think this does go hand in hand when, obviously, during this time, she is having cosmetic surgery. There is definitely, her face is changing, her body's changing. Obviously, towards the end of the year, she's in Playboy. So the presentation of Chyna is shifting. What doesn't shift is her being presented as this incredible force of nature, and that's what's amazing. Throughout her entire WWF run, her star appeal never gets reduced, does it? Like, she's always presented as this special attraction.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was gonna say, Ben, there've been a few like couples storylines we have experienced in wrestling. I mean, the undoubted, the greatest of all time, we know it, Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. But after that, for me, it was this, Chyna and Eddie. I mean, two of the best, I think, in the business. Eddie Guerrero being Eddie Guerrero, great in the ring, outside the ring, great on the mic. Chyna. But the way they play this and do this, oh my god, you couldn't help getting emotionally attached and involved in this. Like every skit, every time Eddie is messing up and then he's on his knees apologizing, Mamacita, don't leave me, I love you more than life, I love you. So it's like so real. You feel they're really a couple in real life. That's what I thought. And it was so amazing the way they did it. And the whole thing around then the storyline around, it wasn't just like a plain old storyline, like, oh, it's a couple, maybe they break up, whatever. But then there was other characters that got involved in it. The Intercontinental title, if you remember, when he accidentally beats Chyna when he's consoling her, but he pins her and the referee counts, and then he's like, what have I done? And then, but he's kind of happy. So it was like, you could see the heel turn come in. But I just thought it was just amazing. It was like edge of your seat stuff, and you couldn't wait to tune in next week to see what happens with the couple. And it was awesome, exciting time, I think, there.
Yeah, and they made each other even bigger stars. That's the beauty of when you do an angle well in wrestling. Like both Chyna and Eddie came out of that run in a better position. Chyna was so much more relatable. That's because I think that's when we really got to see the person behind the character, and you could just tell that they were having huge joy doing that.
And I think when it's believable, like that you know that it's good when everyone thinks like it's actually real.
Yeah. And then, as I said, so Chyna is on the cover of Playboy in November 2000. So, we were talking about this earlier, Sarah, in terms of kind of body image and perceptions of women and stuff. That is so significant, and what a sign of changing times. Only 3 years earlier, you're getting all these comments about how she appears, and to be the cover star of Playboy is a huge deal.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, especially back then, like if you're on Playboy, it's like, yeah, good on her.
Good on her, exactly. And I just, I can't remember the timeline of at what point it was that her and Triple H separated. I don't know if you know that, Sarah, or you do, Ash, like at what point it was that their relationship fell apart.
I believe it was when
2001, I think.
I was going to say, I'm sure it was during the gimmick with Eddie. She discovered the letters from Stephanie McMahon.
Because there was a bit during Eddie and Chyna storyline, the Mama Sia storyline. There was Triple H got involved in a storyline with them as well, if you remember. And it's like there's a feud a bit going on. So if that was the case, then I don't know for them to still work together. But I know she had interactions with Stephanie. There was matches like, I think Stephanie was managing Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was involved as well. So yeah, it must have been maybe around that time. You could be right. I'm not 100% sure. But for her to still, I don't know, keep going, it must have been so hard for her.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
100%. Like, I think she discovered like letters that were like dated from a year back from her to him. Obviously, like if your partner's doing that and it's someone that is your heart and soul, that's going to shatter you to pieces. But yeah, she discovered these letters. Like, he denied it, obviously, like they do. And she had to go to work and deal with that.
Yeah. I mean, you touched up on it, Ben, about the body transformation, and I remember that too. Like, by the time I think she then transitions into the women, I think it was probably after this time, she goes into the women's division and she's challenging women, pretty much squashing them. I think that squash match, I think when she wins the world title against Ivory, she looks very different, like physically. Compared to the Amazon that we knew. I mean, she's still tall, so she's towering over all these women, and you can see that she's going to be undefeated. She's going to retire as a women's champion. But yeah, you could tell that body transformation was quite significant.
I think they very much wanted to make her more into a diva, like the WWE diva. So they slimmed her down, the muscles went down, and it was very much WWE diva.
Fit in the
in the little box.
And she had I remember that really well. WrestleMania 17, she comes out in that kind of purple attire. She's got like big poofy hair. She's got that gimmick gun thing, the blasty gun thing.
Bazooka.
Yeah,
the bazooka,
all smiles. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I mean, it's still Chyna. She's still.
I do love that.
Essentially a distraction.
The purple outfit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You need one of those.
I've got to get around to building it.
But that match, the match with Ivory is just, it says it all. It's just like a complete one-sided squash. But it's like so indicative of like what's the point, because this superstar has transcended, her own gender in terms of women's wrestling. There is no competition whatsoever. She's so at that time. It'd be very different now. That's the thing. Like, the irony is that Joanie Laurer Chyna in 2025 would fit in so well and would have so many people that she could competitively match up with. But at the time, and I think it's partly because of also how we'd seen her. Like, very hard to kind of go. Once you've kind of body slammed Mark Henry and gone toe to toe with Steve Austin and Triple H and The Rock and all these people, very, very hard to then present you competitively, even if it's against a Trish Stratus or a Lita or whoever it may be, because she's kind of, the only way was down really. And it was either, does she become world champion or where does she go? Now, there is a question, like in other in other periods of time, could Chyna have been world champion? Because at the time, she's there in this era where so many incredible talents don't become world champion, because at the top of the heap is Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Second tier is The Undertaker, Kane, Mankind. It's an unbelievably stacked era for wrestling. But even a few years earlier or a few years later, whether Chyna would have been a world champion, I think she could have been, certainly by the point that they did the brand split and had two championships. What do you both think?
I think she basically paved the way for women's wrestling how it is. It wouldn't be like it is now without her. I think more recently it's a lot more acceptable for women in sport. In her time, no, because you've got all the big boys. It's a very male-dominated sport. It still is a male-dominated sport, like most sports. But certainly without her, the women's division wouldn't have been anything like it is now. But if she was about now, 100% should have been top of the game, because it's a lot more accepted now for women to be within sport.
I'm Marc Mero, former WWE Intercontinental Wrestling Champion and 3-time WCW World Television Champion. I am thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Bad to Good. The inspiring story of a wrestling wild man chronicles the highs and lows of my life, both in and out of the wrestling ring. It's a powerful narrative of overcoming adversity and the importance of perseverance, no matter how tough the journey gets. Co-authored with my good friend and award-winning journalist, Ben Veal, this is a story I've long wanted to share, and I truly hope it inspires you. I hold nothing back in this book, revealing the untold truths of my extraordinary life, from my modest beginnings and my first boxing match to the struggles with addiction that almost consumed me, and my evolution into the charismatic Johnny B. Bad. This book offers an insider's perspective on the world of professional wrestling and my journey as a sports entertainer. You'll read about my pivotal negotiations with Vince McMahon that led to the first ever guaranteed contract in the WWF, and how that decision marked me within the locker room. I discuss the impact of my relationship with my then wife, Rena, known to fans as Sable, on my career. I also confront the darkest moments of my life, how I hit rock bottom, and how that experience sparked my rebirth, leading me to become America's leading motivational school speaker, inspiring young people and transforming lives. Featuring forwards by my good friends Diamond Dallas Page and Lex Luger, along with contributions from Mick Foley, Eric Bischoff, Vince Russo, and others who shared this wild journey with me. Bad to Good is a story you don't want to miss. Head to Amazon.com or WrestlingLife.online now to pick up your copy.
And I did hear this. She was actually tipped to win the King of the Ring, and be called the first ever Queen of the Ring. And then she was supposed to go on to SummerSlam to challenge Stone Cold for the world title. But I've read and heard people, I don't know how much of it is true, but Stone Cold refused. I think he didn't want to wrestle her, or
similar things. Yeah.
Well, he was fiercely protective. Marc Mero has told me when we were working on his book together, like, because Mark had been power bombed by Sable, then Steve wouldn't work with him, because if he'd been able to be beaten up by a woman, then what right did he have to be with him? I mean, he knew his brand. He knew how over he was. And he wasn't going to be swayed on that. It's a very
male way of thinking, though, isn't it?
It is, because there's real money, and Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Chyna is a proper money match. I think that's the thing. But
he just didn't want to look silly when he got took out by a woman.
Well, exactly, and you like to think things have changed. Whether they have, I don't know. But Chyna leaves the WWF in 2001. Under a cloud, really, contract disputes going on, these personal issues involving Triple H and Stephanie, doesn't get her big swan song, doesn't get a nice kind of send off. She's just kind of gone.
I think they got rid of her quietly because of Triple H.
Yeah, they didn't renew the contract.
I think she was sat in a restaurant or like a cafe or something, and she basically got a factory saying, on. Nice.
Imagine getting a fax.
I know, right?
But the problem is that by the time this happens, there is a monopoly. So even if this has happened 2 years earlier, for a fact should have been on WCW Nitro within her as soon as her 90 days were up, and should have been huge in Nitro. There is nowhere for her to go really by this point. TNA at this time doesn't exist. She does have a stint in New Japan, and she is the first woman, I believe, to wrestle there against men. And she does later have a brief time in TNA, but really after her WWF run, that is her career over to a large degree in wrestling.
The pinnacle moment that set her on the downwards path, because you can see how in later wrestling matches and stuff, you can just see her starting to go mentally downhill.
Yeah, and
that was the pinnacle what did it. And I'm not pointing fingers at people to blame for her passing, but Triple H and Stephanie didn't help. That's what set her off.
Yeah, and I be fascinating to think obviously what starts off as a affair between the two of them ends up becoming what it has become now, this 25-year long marriage and where they are. But yeah, she was undoubtedly collateral damage. I believe for a long time, Joanie was romantically intertwined with Sean Waltman, obviously X-Pac from DX.
Which again didn't help, because obviously they were both addicts, and two addicts together is a recipe for absolute disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking political, and a bit of kayfabe in it too. If you remember, even her storylines, in any romantic storyline she was involved, whether, I don't know if it was just the easiest way for them, whether it be Mark Henry or Eddie Guerrero, the end of that relationship is exactly the same, that the guy cheats on her and then she dumps him. But with her Triple H storyline, she turns on Triple H, which in real life, it's the other way around. So it's just so bizarre now thinking about it. And
yeah, and the later years of her life are heartbreaking. She kind of transitions into reality TV, Surreal Life, Celebrity Rehab, these bunch of VH1 specials. Obviously, it's well documented. A lot of issues with substance abuse, legal troubles. Adult film work. There's all this kind of stuff of a woman who was clearly really struggling and didn't have a support network around her, didn't have the right people around her helping her.
100%. If you watch that documentary, the Vice one, towards the end, I can never get it out of my head. She sat on the floor going, "I am Chyna," and she is having a absolute breakdown. She is crying for help. She thinks nobody loves her. In her head, she had no one. She was alone, and nobody stepped in. I know you can't help people but for someone to feel that so much alone, it's actually sad to watch. It's heartbreaking. This legendary wrestler that had it all, and she thinks nobody loves her, and she's having a mental breakdown on the floor.
I think the thing was also prior to her getting into wrestling, she had a very difficult childhood and upbringing and stuff, and I think she was very close to her sister, and apparently when she got into wrestling, it was like she was as if she was feeling that great sense of a family, apparently. And that's what I was watching something, and so she was so I think wrestling was everything to her. So I think that's why when that was taken away from her, she was back to perhaps where she was prior to wrestling. So I think wrestling was her life,
Which I can identify with, because for me, bodybuilding is my life, and I've got a family within bodybuilding now. that's my support network. If that was taken away, I don't know what I'd do, because that's like my life. I say to people, I'll die in the gym. Like, if that was taken away, I don't know where I'd be, because that's my mental stability.
Yeah, and it was, it was so cruelly taken away from her, and so, so like a straight cut. Like, you're out of here. You're not part of the WWF anymore. You're not in this family. You're not mentioned. Like, it was many, 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 many years before she was mentioned. Like, much
completely
like Sable,
blackout.
Yeah,
I think they went to WWE headquarters at one point in that documentary, and they were basically ushered out the building. This is a woman like that's worked for you and made your company bigger, and she was ushered out the building by security.
I mean, how can you talk about this word women's evolution is being, kind of marketed and talked about? How are you gonna take the woman out? How can you take Chyna out, who was the evolution of women's wrestling? How can she not be part of that conversation? I don't understand.
And I still don't think she's really part of that conversation enough. When we talk about the women's revolution and the evolution, they often, especially with WWE, they often hark back on a lot of people from the same era. So it's always kind of Trish Stratus, Lita, Ivory, Molly Holly, Jacqueline, Jazz. You don't hear Chyna's name. Yeah.
No. And they're trying to almost, in a way, like, turn Rhea into Chyna. Like, there's very similar storylines. Like, no disrespect, Rhea's a good wrestler. Get out of it. Chyna's the girl.
And Rhea seems to have her head really screwed on as well, in terms of good balance, from what I've seen, between good balance between work and play and boundaries, and seems to have a good support network around her and be grounded. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot more with this generation of wrestlers, is they... I don't know if they're more protected, but it certainly felt like in the 90s they were really left to do.
Oh yeah, they were just left, used and abused almost. But they WWE themselves kind of try and market her a bit like Chyna, and it's like, please stop.
Yeah,
I mean, the treatment of Chyna is kind of synonymous with Benoit, I would say, like just a complete blackout. You didn't exist.
Yeah, but with no reason on her part, and that's what must have been so hard for her to.
I mean, she's done nothing bad. Like,
nothing wrong.
She's not done a Benoit. How many girls do OnlyFans and stuff these days? Come on, it's not that bad.
No, it's not at all.
I think it's
in today's era, it's nothing. And it's quite interesting, because in some of the documentaries I've seen as well, I've seen Tammy Sitch, Sunny, talking about their friendship that they developed in later life. And I don't know the relationship there.
I don't know, because I've heard things that she's kind of makes up stories. I don't know how true that is. No, I'd take that one with a pinch of salt.
And I was watching it on this documentary, preparing for this, one of the many Chyna documentaries, being like, is there truth in that? She's talking about kind of how they bonded over rehab and how she was one of the last people to call her, and
story tells. I don't know how true that is. I don't know, but
you can to play devil's advocate. You could see a friendship being there, because actually both of their lives, they both suffered a lot of tragedy. They were both spat out by the wrestling industry. They both followed similar paths with addiction and adult film industry and stuff like that. They were both pretty much persona non grata within WWE. The difference being, of course, Sunny does get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Despite all of that, she gets her moment on the stage. There was more than enough opportunity, because it's not until 2016 that Joanie passes away. So many opportunities for her to be inducted in, and I hope it happens posthumously, but it should have happened in the 15 years after she left the company, without question. And for politics, and old grudges and everything to have played such a role to overshadow, there are two women that should be in the WWE Hall of Fame, regardless of politics, and that's Chyna and Sable, without question. Without those two women, you don't have a women's industry like you have today.
100%.
And both of them deserve to be in the Hall of Fame at one day. Whether either of them ever will is questionable. Yeah. But kind of want to kind of, to bring this to a close, just kind of talk about the later years of her life, because there are things when I was doing my research which I didn't realise, and I'm sure you know more about this, Sarah, but I've read that Joanie moved to Japan to teach English and practice spirituality, so that's quite interesting. So I don't know if she'd conquered some of her demons and were able to move into another chapter of her life.
She seemed to be doing all right there. So she was obviously out there teaching, and she seemed to be doing all right. I think her passport expired and she couldn't get back, but her manager wanted to bring her back over to start filming the Resurrection of Chyna documentary, which is from the Vice documentary, where you start seeing it when they flew her back. And the pain medication kit was got for her and all that kind of stuff. And the downfall happened.
Do you think there was an intention for her to potentially use that as a springboard to get back into wrestling?
Potentially, yeah. I think it was like the Resurrection of Chyna, so they wanted to get her back into the wrestling. Obviously, she started touring the Comic-Con scene, which at parts of that she did find it difficult, because we're going back to being quite disrespectful. People were being disrespectful and taking like pictures they shouldn't to sign, being very disrespectful towards her, so that obviously set her off. But I think that was probably the intention, kind of getting Chyna back into the whole wrestling scene, as it were.
Yeah. It's just one of those, we've covered a lot of stories on Gone Too Soon, and some of these have been really quite heartbreaking to do. We've, Ash and I have recorded about Owen Hart, and, we've recorded about Bray Wyatt very recently, and there are some, they're all wrestling tragedies, but there are some that are particularly sad, and the story of Chyna is one of them. She should still be here today. She should be getting her flowers. She should be there on a Legends deal in the Hall of Fame, really respected for what she brought to business. I'm so glad that you were able to join us for this. I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing, Sarah, because I think you are undoubtedly keeping her spirit alive, and I think that's why people are kind of gravitating towards you so much. It's not just that you look like her. I think it's the fact that, especially through this conversation, it's clear you're seeing the world very much how she saw it through her eyes, and I think I've
kind of always been like that. Like, my mum brought me up, treat people how you want to be treated, so I'm nice to people. Like, I would rather go out there and be like, you don't know what's going on in someone's life, so like, I'd rather pay someone a compliment, because they're probably having a really crap day, and you're like, you like something about them, just say something nice. It doesn't hurt you. Like, you say something nice, you could have made someone's day that's having a really crappy day. But if you go out there and want to go out there and be horrible and spiteful to people all the time and spread hatred, that says more about you as a person and your soul than anything else. Like, why be that person?
Well, the next person that says an unkind comment to you, I want you to channel your inner Chyna and just give them a massive low blow.
I mean, I might get arrested. I like to have my little witty comebacks.
Yeah.
Make it look like an accident.
Yeah. Oh no, I slipped on the banana skin.
Accidentally clotheslined you.
I just touched him and he fell over.
But before we wrap up, before we kind of get onto our memories, her legacy, just tell me a little bit about. I know you've literally, as the time we've recorded this, you've got trophies behind you. What's the trophy you've just won? Because that's really significant, isn't it?
Right, the one I just won. So I competed with NABBA last Sunday, so it was a week ago. So NABBA is where Arnold Schwarzenegger started. He was Mr. Universe. Then he went into the IFBB League and went onto the Olympia stage, which is the biggest bodybuilding stage. So I competed with NABBA. So I won my class. So I've got it here, actually.
Look at those. Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
You get that when you compete with NABBA. So I won my class. And then they presented me with my NABBA Pro card. So they're doing a Pro League. And then I won overall champion at NABBA England. So I'm going to go to NABBA Universe and try for a Universe title next month, following Arnie's footsteps. So
Where does that take place?
Newcastle. So it's 3 hours away from where I am. So it's a weekend away.
And what's the giant trophy behind your head? Because that looks like it. That looks like a weight.
This is my. I'll be honest. This is my favourite one. So, another. There's different associations in bodybuilding that you can compete with. So this is an IBFA event. So this is the A1 Classic. It's one of my favourite ones to do. I did it last year, but I won that for overall. So it's my favourite thing. It's incredible. You can obviously see how big this is.
Yeah, is it heavy?
Actual plate.
Yeah, it's literally molded from an actual they had it made.
Look at that.
With the A1 Classic, they had it sculpted, but it is heavy as sin. But it is my favourite one, just because it's so unique. Yeah. It's a barbell plate.
Not you can just train with that.
About a weight plate.
Yeah. Man, that's a great. Well, we were talking before we joined the call about how much weight you've dropped recently, how shredded you've got to do that. Like the commitment that it takes to do what you do is just remarkable. So all credit to you, and I love following your journey. I don't actually follow that many people on social media. I genuinely don't. I try and keep my timeline pretty clean to people that bring me joy and whose journeys I like following, because there's a lot of noise out there. So I'm quite careful about who I follow, and I love following this journey. I'm going to enjoy it even more now that we've spoken today. I know how lovely you are as a person.
Thank you.
Sarah is also a good contact for me. She always gives me her feedback and opinion on various flavors of protein. So thank you, Sarah, for that.
I'm really funny with protein powders. Like some of them mix up lumpy and stuff. Again, cream of rice. So I have to try all these different things to find the ones I really like.
Yeah, I found mine, so I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. I think I'm on the Naughty Boy ISO way now.
All right, I've never tried them.
Yeah, so the Naughty Boy ones actually mix up really nice and the flavours are nice. Isolate I use at the minute because it's a lot leaner protein and it absorbs quicker, just because I'm in a cut, rather than normal whey protein. It takes a bit more to digest. But the flavours are really nice. I think I'm on peanut butter blondie at the minute.
Ooh, I love peanut butter. Oh, I'm going to have to try their peanut butter, because I tried it with the other ones and you hardly taste the peanut butter.
You get a little essence of peanut butter, because I like them quite sort of vanilla-y type shakes. I don't really like heavy chocolate shakes.
I love my peanut butter. I eat it with a spoon.
I just eat peanut butter and don't do the exercise, unlike you two.
I'm not even have peanut butter at the minute. It's almond butter. It sucks.
Well, look, just to kind of wrap up at the end, final words from us all. So, for me, and I think of Chyna, I just think of trailblazer. Someone who broke barriers, who was able to compete very much with men on an equal footing. Someone who just changed the game. How about you, Ash?
For me, the biggest thing, when people mention Attitude Era, people only mention Stone Cold, The Rock, But for me, Chyna was a pivotal part of the Attitude Era. If you have lived the Attitude Era, she was front and center for the Attitude Era. And I think an absolute legend. Can't say enough nice things about her. Yeah, amazing.
Final words, Sarah Page, Chyna Syndrome, over to you.
The wrestling level, the most iconic woman in women's wrestling, women's wrestling, you think women's wrestling, that's the top you can get, just iconic on a personal level. I wouldn't even know where to begin. She has changed. I owe Chyna so much. She has changed my life, and I've been my true self because of her. So I can't thank her enough. That's why I've got this the other day.
Show it up. I saw this on your Instagram. Your Chyna tattoo. Wow, look at that.
Yeah, we saw
my
nice.
Tan. It took off my show tan because I still got show tan on. I just took them off. From the bottom of my heart, I there's no words to describe what that woman's done for me, and I will do what I do as long as I can to for people to remember her, because she was an absolute true icon, a legend, and a beautiful human being. Like, we all have problems, we all have various things we deal with, but it doesn't take away from the fact she was a beautiful person inside and out.
Yeah. Well, beautifully said. Lovely final words. I'm just going to, as we wrap up today, remembering the late, great Joanie Laurer, Chyna, I just want to say a couple of thank yous. So thank you, firstly, to my producer, Jeff Easton from Tall Lake Productions, who always brings these shows to life so beautifully. Thank you to you guys for being with us for this conversation today, for helping this channel to grow, to be with us for all of the interviews so far. This is a platform for positivity, for real talk, for celebrating the incredible people that we love within wrestling. So, please do share this episode with someone you think might enjoy it, and leave a comment as well with your favorite Chyna memory. But for today, I've been Ben Veal from Wrestling Life. My co-host has been
People's Broker.
There he is, like RVD, Ajaz. And our very, very special guest has been Sarah Page, Chyna Syndrome. Sarah, where can people follow you? That's the last thing I wanted to say. Where can people follow you on social media?
So it's Chyna Syndrome _ on Instagram, Chyna Syndrome on TikTok. I think it's Chyna Syndrome _ on X. I don't really bother using that. It's mainly just Instagram and TikTok.
And Ash as well. I forgot to give you your plugs.
Yep, same. Follow at The People's Broker at all major platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and recently come to X as well. Again, same as Sarah, I don't use it a lot, but yeah, you can find me there. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. Some useful stuff there, especially the Monday motivation, which I'm really proud of. So go check that out, guys.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been Wrestling Life with Ben Veal. I'll see you soon for more real talk from real talent. Until then, be good to each other. Pay it forward if you can. And I'll see you soon. Bye.
See you guys. Bye.
Yeah.